Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to the Fire and Rescue New South Wales Permanent Firefighter Recruitment Information Session. As explained to the people in front of me here at the Teachers Federation, this is being live streamed and is being recorded. All right, my name's Greg Rankin. I'm the Chief Superintendent of Operational Staffing and Recruitment for Fire and Rescue New South Wales. I'll be leading you through the first parts of the information session, and then we have a number of guest speakers who'll be talking to different components, which I'll go through. But first up, we're just going to start a little video that will show you a little bit about what Fire and Rescue do.
Yeah, fire comes, rescue pump 503, red, single car MVA.
Fire and Rescue will have you up for Gordon.
Got the one person in there, Mark, on the driver's side. I can see that one person. There we go. You happy?
Ready for raising.
Hey, stay where you are.
Just trapped in here.
We'll look after you and we'll get you out of here, okay?
You can come in. Mark's coming in to give you a hand, okay? He'll look after you. Just hang in there.
Hey Nat, Dave. Okay.
He's got a possible broken ankle there.
Firefighter here is going to support you in, so just listen to him.
Oh man, there's another door. Alright, I've got a victim.
All right.
We're here to protect what really matters.
Been a really brave girl today. Yes.
We help anyone, anywhere, anytime.
Chin strap on, protects our neck.
We are Fire and Rescue New South Wales, and we are prepared for anything.
All right, so as you can see, a wide variety of incidents and operational things that we do. We've got a number of firefighters here that are going to do some presentations as we go through the session. So basically, the agenda is this will go for about 2 hours, including the question time. I'll give a bit of an overview of what Fire and Rescue New South Wales is. Like I said, we've got guest speakers here from operational firefighters that'll go through. We'll go through what we look for in candidates. We'll look at the rostering and work arrangements. Then we'll go through, Mr. Tim Davis, here's Manager of Talent Acquisition, will go through the actual recruitment process, how that operates. We'll then got Mark Gabriel, who's going to talk about the physical aptitude test, the PAT. We've got Wendy Phillips here who'll talk about the medical process. I'll come back and talk about how the recruit training, and then we'll obviously have some question times at the end. So any questions you want, just take a note of that as we go through, and hopefully we'll answer most of them as we go through the session. Look, first up, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on today for the people here in the live audience. That's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures, connections to the land and waters of New South Wales. Okay, so the video showed a lot of the capabilities that we undertake. Obviously the main one that everyone knows is fire, structural, bush, and the various other elements of fire that we fight. We have our rescue capability, and a number of the guest speakers here have a rescue qualification. We do undertake hazmat, hazardous material, and we're the combat agency for hazmat across the entire of New South Wales. And obviously part of that is the protection of the environment, a really big core thing that we want to do, and that's through everything that we do. Counter-terrorism, something that's obviously taken off a lot since 2000, and especially around the 2000 Olympics and beyond. We work really closely with our partner agencies, and especially New South Wales Police. We've got the humanitarian and disaster relief assistance that we do, so that's within New South Wales, external of New South Wales, and then international deployments, which I was quite fortunate or unfortunate for the people of Turkey, but to go to Turkey through the earthquake. We've got our medical response capability in working with Ambulance New South Wales and the broader health system. And then obviously a really big part, and as the firefighters will go through, our prevention and education space and how we work with that, because the more prevention we can do stops us going to all those other incidents. All right, this is our core values. You'll be able to look this up on the website. If we did come to the application process and you don't know these and they can rattle off the top of your head, you probably had a poor start. So respect, integrity, service and courage is the core values of Fire Rescue New South Wales. I won't read them all out, but obviously there's each one of those is a respect of, I always say, the respect, the integrity and the service and the courage of each other as we work as employees together, and then obviously the respect, integrity, service and courage that we give to the communities of New South Wales that we serve. And I always make a little bit of a note, and I like this one, is the courage, and the firefighters again will talk about some of that courage. It's not just the courage to go into a fire or some type of incident when everyone else is sort of running away. It's also the courage to make calls and be sure we have respect for our fellow employees and call out things, and the courage to call out things that are not right. Okay, now I've got a really good pleasure to introduce our guest speakers here today. So first of all, we've got Station Officer Chris Allen, who is at City of Sydney Fire Station, and Chris is here. He's actually on shift right now and his crew is here with him, and I thank the crew again for coming down with us. Chris.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to everyone in the room here today, and thank you to everyone that is online for being part of this process. A brief introduction to myself. My name is Chris Allen. I'm a station officer, as Sir mentioned, at City of Sydney Fire Station, only a few blocks away from here. And today I'm supported by my crew over there. We've got Ethan, Ben, Lou and Nikki, and they are eager and waiting for some questions at the end of the session. A bit about me before I sort of push into some interesting parts of the job that you're looking to apply for, being an operational firefighter. So for me personally, I have been in this organisation for 17 years as a firefighter, of which 14 have been in operations. That has allowed me to build skills that I never really imagined I was going to obtain, let alone develop. And in particularly, those skills as a junior firefighter have given me opportunities to train in other fields such as hazardous materials and gain a qualification as an operator in that space. That led to a role that I did for about 3.5 years as an instructor in our breathing apparatus and hazmat team, which specifically trained our recruit firefighters as well as continued training throughout the state. And more recently, moving into the rescue space, where I'm currently a rescue operator at City of Sydney, with additional training as a swiftwater operator. The amazing things that this job has given me is particularly an ability to work all over the state. I've worked regionally, I've worked in a lot of stations in metropolitan areas. It's also allowed for interstate deployments as being part of firefighting teams and swiftwater teams. One of the things that I want to stress, and it's possibly my outlook, but I hope it's a common outlook shared along the lines of people in this room and people online, is that as an operational firefighter, we're driven by supporting the needs of our key stakeholders. And our major stakeholder are the communities within New South Wales and the people that we serve. So when you apply for a role as an operational firefighter, you're essentially coming to work to make sure that you are fit, you're healthy, you're ready to support people in need. It's a job that is very physically demanding. It is also a job that is very mentally and emotionally demanding. So a key part of being in this career is making sure you stay on top of your fitness, stay on top of your mental health, staying on top of your diet, and keeping a life that is well balanced. For me personally, making sure that you have a life that is well balanced, it is having support networks around you. One of the key themes that myself and the other guest speakers will talk to today is teamwork. We get a lot of support from our team when we come to work, But you also need to have your support networks outside of work, your family, your friends, your sporting clubs and things like that. Another big component is if you do take this role on, depending where you live and travelling to work, it is a substantial time away from family. Whether you're going through stages with young children, not only are you applying for this job, but potentially your family is also a massive consideration in the role that you're going to apply for. My time in this job has been fantastic. I'm thoroughly thankful for it. It has been a very, very rewarding job. It has given me some fantastic opportunities. One of the greatest things of this is that no two shifts are ever the same. The types of incidents that we go to, the people we work with, it varies. In particular, with the jobs that we go to, you need to appreciate that we are there to support people on possibly the worst day of their lives. With those incidents comes a lot of reward, but it also comes a lot of weight that you carry. You're dealing with people that have traumatic injuries. You're dealing with people that are going through grief. You're also dealing with people through natural disasters that are experiencing absolute loss. So I guess for me now as a station officer, standing here talking to potential recruit firefighters, is what do I want to see as a firefighter that's in my team? Well, personally, I want to see people that join this organisation that are professional, they have a high level of empathy, and they're there to support vulnerable and people that are injured and in need. I want to work with people in my team that can receive instruction well, that are prepared to be given tasks, and that they can follow through with those tasks to achieve the objectives of the incident. I want to work with people that have a willingness to learn. As I mentioned, this job has given me many, many opportunities that I've had to work through and I've had to learn all about. Which drives the next point, being self-motivated. Self-motivation in this organisation is a really key part to having a long, rewarding and healthy career. Working in that team setting, I've touched on it, but a team setting that's scalable. Understanding that for myself right now, I'm working in a team of 5. I could go back to that station and have small conversations, solve problems working in a team of 2. But tonight we could be at a structure fire where there's upwards of 60 to 100 firefighters on the fire ground trying to achieve the same objectives. I'll finish on this last bit that I truly hope that everyone in this room has the best of intentions for applying for this role. It is a very, very rewarding role, working as an operational firefighter. Just remember the key parts are we serve people of New South Wales, people that are in need, and we're also there to educate and achieve the best outcomes for those people. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for your time, and sir, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. Well said. All right, next I'd like to bring up Hilary Castle, a qualified firefighter, also from City of Sydney Fire Station. Thanks, Hilary.
Welcome again, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. As Sir said, I'm a qualified firefighter. I've been in the organisation for 3 years. I came from, I guess, a bit of a different background. I came from a background in media, and it wasn't something I'd thought of doing before I got in the job. I was sent to Outback Queensland for my previous job, and I became friends with some of the firefighters. I'm not a Queenslander though, I'm a New South Wales person, blues through and through. I became friends with some auxiliary firefighters in the Outback, and I had always in me for a very long time been drawn to community organisations, and there was something in me that I just wanted to be part of helping people in the community. Unfortunately, the media organisation I work for wouldn't let me become part of the auxiliary firefighters, so I joined the SES, and I was lucky enough to do some joint drills with the SES and the AMBOs and the police and the fireys up there in the Outback. And I think also being in a small country town, it just brought that home even more, that desire to help people in the community. So So yeah, I just got thinking. I thought, oh, this is something I'd really like to do as a job, and it was definitely very quite different from what I'd done, sort of basically as a desk job. But I think once I got researching, excuse me, and talking to the fireys, I just picked their brains about everything. I started to realise there was some things about my past career as well in the equestrian industry and in childcare that would be great as transferable skills. So that is one of the biggest things for me for anyone applying is think about what skills you can bring to the job from what job you're in now or even your life experience. That is, it's also something you might not even think about, or how would that work as a firefighter? How is that going to be a transferable skills? But there's such a broad range of people that work in fire and rescue as firefighters and then also can do other roles in fire and rescue. So I've been in the city for 3 years and I work with a really diverse group of people. There's about 25 people on my crew. We've got tradies, engineers, personnel, ADF personnel, mechanics and IT professionals, to name a few. There's even a chef in there, which if you've got any chefing background, that's always a great thing on a big crew. We do cook-ups and it's a lot of fun working with that many people, but there is a serious side to the job. So, you just have to be prepared as well to be adaptable and be able to follow instructions as already has been mentioned today. So, and something that is really important is just being able to take care of yourself when you're not on shift, because they are long shift, they're 24-hour shifts. You've got to be prepared to, if it is a big change in your life, sometimes if you have to work away from your family, you're going 24-hour shift on and then a day off and then 24-hour shift on again. I never have that feeling where I don't look forward to going to work the next day. I've also been lucky enough to be Swiftwater technician trained as well, like Mr. Allen over here was saying before, and recently I completed my ladder platform aerial appliance training. We've got a new 45-metre Bronto in the city, and that's like an extra training, but you have to have 2 years as a firefighter to become a qualified firefighter. So there's quite a bit of training involved with that before you get to go on one of those courses. On my second shift, I was thrown right in the deep end at a big factory fire on the Bronto, but it was a steep learning curve, but it's just one of the parts of the job that I love, that's for sure. So the best thing as well is that no 2 days are the same, as already has been mentioned. We go out and help the community in many, many different ways. We can even make a child's day by just getting them up into the truck. They love to come and see the fire truck, and even helping an elderly lady change her smoke detector, check that all the safety fire, the smoke detectors are right in their house and that kind of thing. So, speak to other fireys, get the most knowledge you can about the job, and have that that time where you can study hard for the aptitude tests and train hard for the PAT. So if you want a job that makes you feel like you've done something worthwhile at the end of every day, then this is definitely the job for you. Just find out as much about it as you can, and good luck to everyone.
Thank you very much, Hilary. All right, now I'd like to bring up Alex Moulos, Station Officer Alex Moulos, who is part of my team currently. I'm very blessed to have her on the crew with me, so thanks, Alex.
Thank you, sir. Very grateful to be part of the team. Hi, everyone. My name's Alex. have recently been promoted to station officer, and I currently hold the position of roster officer in the operational staffing team. Really grateful to see all your faces, and hopefully we can give you some information that'll help you through the process you're about to go through. Sorry, hands on the desk, is that what it is? Apparently we weren't quite loud enough last time, and I tend to walk. Anyway, all right. So I've been with Fire and Rescue now for just over 11 years. I'm truly passionate about being part of this organisation and working with the team, both our small teams and the team of larger organisation. We really do some valuable work in the community, and you know, it's a very fulfilling role. I started off as a retained firefighter in Thredbo in the Snowy Mountains and worked there for 2 years, and really loved the opportunity to learn different skills, work in the community, and decided to become a permanent firefighter in 2016. I started my career as a permanent firefighter in southwest Sydney, worked through a couple of different stations and worked my way to Liverpool, which is a rescue station. During that time, I was a traveller, so I still lived in the Snowy Mountains, but travelled from the Snowy Mountains backwards and forwards from Sydney to do my role, because most of the roles are in the Greater Sydney area. Which was excellent. Hillary already talked to our shift schedule of 24 hours on, 24 off, 24 on, and then having that 5 days off in the middle, which is excellent. It's really good having that time off, but that time we use to rest and recover. And as a traveller, sort of driving 5 hours each way each week really took its toll. And I think I found that I couldn't be the best that I could be at work and at my home life, and so ended up moving to Sydney so that I could be closer to work, because that's where the most of our work is. That being said, while I was in those positions in southwest Sydney, we certainly had a lot of fun. We're at a really busy station that did lots of training, lots of drills, you know, constantly improving ourselves, and a range of jobs that we would attend, including, you know, motor vehicle accidents, house and car fires, vehicles into buildings, animal rescue, both small and large. Yes, we do get cats out of trees. Most recently, I got asked to help get a possum out of a tree. They live there, but that's okay. We still do that because a lot of that for us is community relations, and we want to help people if we can, and you know, people in less fortunate positions than us. We did things like lift rescues, vertical rescues, and was able to use the training that I learned in the as an on-call community first responder in any medical incidents that we attended, which I'm very grateful to have that training and qualification. So while we get to go to all these really exciting things, it's important to note that, you know, we have day-to-day around the station and things that we do need to do. We do clean toilets, we do vacuum, we do, you know, have to manage station inventories and service it or check equipment, and we're constantly running drills to improve our skills at the station, which is actually one of the good parts. We do a lot of work, including pre-incident planning, understanding our community area and the people within our community, and are lucky enough to be able to deliver information sessions to people within the community, and that can include childcare centres, which is my favourite because the kids love when the fire truck comes, or to seniors in areas so that they can understand what they need to do to get out safe if there's a fire, as well as culturally and linguistically diverse communities to help them understand how we can help them. So lots of opportunities to do lots of different things while we're at work. There are also the unfun sides of incidents that we might have to, you know, stand by overnight at a fire that we just want to make sure doesn't get out of control. We do stand by at power lines that have come down in the middle of a storm in the pouring rain, you know, and there are periods where you're just waiting for the bells to go off. So every day is different, and we have this huge variety of wonderful things that we get to do. I want to talk a little bit about a side of the role that I'm quite passionate about, and the reason why is being ready and prepared to come to work and be the best you that you can be. We owe that to ourselves, we owe that to our crews, and we also owe that to the community, because if we don't come to work that way, it can affect us and can affect other people. And I say that in terms of some of the incidents that we do. Chris already alluded to, we're dealing with people on the worst day of their lives, and often that can be traumatic. It is traumatic for them, and it can be traumatic for us. In May of 2018, I attended a truck incident on my way on the road that I used to take to drive home, and the truck driver unfortunately passed away in this incident, and part of our role is to help with the extrication of a person in that situation. And we went to the incident, and arriving at the incident looked like any other truck incident. Well, not like any other, they're never ever the same, but looked like a truck accident. You could see that an accident had happened, and we got there and the person was partially in the vehicle, and he was covered over. So when somebody passes, there needs to be a criminal investigation, so we went away and we had to come back. And I was told as a junior, as part of my training, it would be my job to extricate. And that's quite a serious thing, because this is somebody's, son, possibly a father or a brother, a loved one, and, we want to show respect and do the best job we can by them. I spent a few hours mentally preparing myself for this role that I was about to take, and I really thought that I was ready and I was okay to do that, because it wasn't the first time. And we got called back to the job, and I got there, and they'd uncovered him to complete the investigation, and at that moment I froze, which for me at that time was a normal reaction, because they always are, because it's not normal is different for everyone, and luckily enough I had a crew that could see that at that moment I wasn't ready to do that, and they swept in and did what needed to be done in the way that it needed to be done. I think it's really important that we note that we do go to jobs like this, and we have to be prepared for them. And probably at that time, I had had a death in the family at that week, and maybe I was tired from my driving and I wasn't quite ready. It made me realise how important it is that we have to know that the jobs we're going to, we're ready for them, mentally and physically. Which led me to, very luckily, a career path in the wellbeing team in Fire and Rescue to help support fireys be the best that we can be. And so what I want to reiterate to you when you take on this role, make sure that it's something that you're ready to take on, because we do so much good work, but you guys are the most important. So in my role, I spent 4 years as a non-operational firefighter in the wellbeing team, travelling and working and supporting firefighters through some really difficult times, but just helping them look after themselves and look after their mates, because our teams are our best resource, and that's why it's so important that you can work in a team when you come into an environment like ours. During that time as a wellbeing officer, I had a baby. So I have a little 3-year-old, and in terms of working the amazing shift roster that we have, it might not suit me, it doesn't suit me anymore in a long-term capacity. But Fire and Rescue, we're so lucky that there are other options for us to work, other shift rosters. There are other opportunities as you grow through your career to be able to do things in the organisation, which could include being a trainer, working within the wellbeing team, working in the team that I've just been lucky enough to be involved in, and that's all these people here, because we actually are all one team. And, to support people in operational capacity, there are so many other opportunities that I know that are out there, and I hope that, if you have a long life or a long career in our organisation, there are other things other than just being firefighter. It's different to what I said earlier today, but that's just what happens when you've had a conversation midway through. So I think there are lots of things to think about. This is truly, they say, the best job in the world, because we do such wonderful things every day in our community, and you'll get the opportunity to work with some really lovely people. Thank you for having me here today. I wish you all the best of luck in your journey, and thank you.
Thanks very much, Alex. And as you can see, there's a lot of passion and from the heart about what we do in our job. Like I said, I've been in a number of years, joined in 1987, and still have that passion and drive, and want to be the best that I can, even though I'm not on doing the good stuff that the team over there can do all that now. But in my capacity, in my management role, I can draw on those experiences and help and explain that to the firefighters of the future. I'm at the back end of my career, but still got a lot of passion for it. Okay, so what do we look for in a candidate? Okay, so a lot of these things are being touched on by our three lovely speakers here today from what they've put through. So the resilience and self-awareness, that was a big theme that came through. The self-awareness exactly what Alex just pointed out there about knowing when you've reached a limit and being able to know that there's great support networks and to be able to draw upon. And if I reflect on parts of my career, it probably wasn't the same back in the late 80s as probably what it is now. And we've really gone leaps and bounds in how we can work with our people. But it is up to the individual to make sure that they put their hand up when they need. Effective communication skills. Once again, I talked about the culturally and linguistically diverse communities, got that out, that we work with. And just remember, and they talked about it, we're going to people on the worst day of their life. It might be not always routine for us, but definitely something, okay, we're going on a fire, we're going to, deal with it and all that. But for that particular individual in that particular moment, that is their worst day probably of their life. And we need to be able to communicate with that people and have empathy and do all that in a very calm and controlled manner. If they see someone like us turn up and we're panicking, how do you think they're going to feel? So effective communication skills is verbal, non-verbal, and all those kind of things, and how we deal with people that may not have the best hearing, or they may be incapacitated in some other way. So, and those people can be we need to be able to deal with those in our daily activities. Commitment to serving, helping and engaging with the public goes without saying. We do that daily basis. We wear a uniform. We are very, very prominent. We don't want to be on, all the social medias doing all the bad things or whatever, because we're pillars of society and people look up to us, and you're very, very visible in your uniform, but also when you're not wearing a uniform and you're out, people know you as a firefighter. So be careful what goes on TikTok. Capacity to accept discipline and follow directions. Yep, the team over there. So we've got a couple of station officers here. They know that the team in that operational tempo, when safety is paramount, that they have to listen to them. And look, even in my capacity, if I turn up to an incident a bit later and Chris or Alex is in charge, I come straight up to them. I just freelance or whatever, I'd be going to them and asking them, hey, what's going on? What do you need me to do, or whatever? So we work together all the time, and we've got to know our roles. And then it comes to the team players. They've explained that really well. It is a team. We work in a team. I work with a brilliant team in the admin side of the things, but everything is about team player and how we interact with each other. Physically fit. I'll leave that over to Mark and then Wendy, talking about exactly what you need to be about that through the physical aptitude test. Once again, goes without saying what we expect. Respectful of others, regardless of the background or differences, and I talked about that in our core values of respect, integrity, service and courage. Once again, they're the people we want in our organisation. And I wouldn't always say, that may not always be reflective of society. We need to be just a little bit above that, okay? I won't mention Donald. Right, ability to exercise self-discipline, sound judgment. Once again, there's some of the testing things that you'll go through, and that'll come through in some of those cognitive and those online testing that we do, and some of those, that's what we're trying to draw out of you, and Tim will talk about that as we go through. Shift work, okay, the team here, please do not underestimate, and we're going to talk about that, of what shift work can play. And it might sound, 24 off, 24 on, but I'll tell you, it's a long shift. And I haven't worked a 24-hour roster. It was phased out by the time I moved into my management role. I worked under the older roster system of 10-14. My dad was a 888 person when he was in the 60s. Each roster, but each one of those shift work rosters, and if anyone does a job, nurse, any of those people that work at 24, even in hospitality, you'll understand that the body can go through lots of things. So be prepared that at the back end of a 24-hour roster, it is taxing, all right? And then you've got to think, you may have to drive home for a few hours. So be prepared for that. The flexibility about work location, we got a lot of online questions about that. Be prepared, you will be working in Sydney for a while. There may be a station at Coffs Harbour, but you will take a long while to get there. Broken Hill, not so bad. You probably maybe 35, 36 minutes after you arrive, you might be heading out there. But Some of our coastal ones are the 24-hour rosters in those regional areas. It's going to take a while. And I'm even talking Newcastle, the Central Coast and Wollongong. All right, it will take a while to get back to those locations. All right, so be prepared for that. Okay, so we talked about that. The team's pretty much talked about that. It's a 336-hour, 8-week cycle that we work on. You are rostered to a platoon. There is flexibility about how some of the shift arrangements in that, getting other firefighters to work some of your shift, but essentially you are rostered to an A platoon, B platoon, C platoon or D, and then you will work that shift, and you could plan for 25 years in advance what you're going to be working and which Christmases you're going to be working. So you can look in advance and say, right, well, I got, and I think, who's in the cycle at the moment? Is it B, D? I don't know. There's a rolling shift that people seem to get for a number of years before you roll off working either a Christmas or a New Year. I think D got both this year. C's in a good spot. Yeah, C's in a good spot, so you guys are cool. But I know when I first started that I worked, 4 Christmases in a row and 4 New Years, so just the luck of the way it goes. You do have set annual leave roster, so we tell you that's when you're going on holidays. All right, so be prepared. Once again, a little bit of flexibility, not so much in the first part of your career, but just be assigned. We have to do that, so we maintain our capability and our coverage on a 24-hour basis. We can't people all having Christmas off, all right? So in saying that, the annual leave cycles that you get are quite good, okay? So you 6 and 8 months, you're getting your annual leave, so work 6, work 8, so that's how it works. All right, I'm now going to pass you on to Tim Davis, who is the Manager of Talent Acquisition, and he'll run through all the process of what you're probably here to hear about, is how to get in. Thanks, Tim.
Hello those in the room and hello those online. Nice to see you all. I am here to talk about, well, I guess the purpose of my contribution tonight is to talk about the recruitment process, and to be honest with you, I feel like I'm right up against it because I don't have any cool human stories that these guys have shared. Talking about the recruitment process can be a little dry, but please bear with me. I've not been in the organisation for a huge amount of time, but I'm actually part of what we call the administration and trades section, which is essentially the support structure that supports the whole operations, more specifically in the recruitment or the talent acquisition team. And a number of my colleagues are here, and Mark's team as well, and Wendy's team. But what I would say is that it's a really smart, driven, committed group of people that are operating and thinking in a very similar way to what the fireys do to deliver what they need. And I think one of the observations, I was chatting with a mate the other day, one of the observations I made that is really quite uncommon that is here is that, like it says on the website, Fire and Rescue New South Wales prepared for anything. Everyone in the organisation just seems to have this sense that if we've got a problem, let's just get on with it and solve it, which is kind of uncommon. I've been to other organisations where that's not always the case. Sometimes they'll look to the challenges that might sort of get in the way. And I think I applaud you for considering this as a career path, because it is a pretty cool place to be. So anyway, I'll do my best to entertain you. First of all, in terms of the recruitment process, I guess the role of a firefighter, as you've heard from the team, is varied and demanding. And so the recruitment process needs to reflect that. And if you have a look at this diagram here, the things that we sort of look across and set some tasks to assess is across values, skills and capability, motivation and commitment, and also traits and attributes. What you'll find, and you'll learn through this session, is that the process is long, it's detailed, and it's really competitive. But what I would say also is, even though it might be overwhelming at times, just really focus on sort of the different steps that you sort of come up to along the way, and just focus on, the things that, the assessments that you're coming to attempt, and what it is that we're looking for. And a lot of this information is available in the candidate information pack. And a lot of the information that we'll go through, today as well is in this pack. Some of it, it'll be familiar to those that have seen this pack, but if not, I'd recommend going and checking it out. And it's on our careers page. But really, I guess the process is as much about us trying to understand and get to know you and whether you can do the job. It's as much about you understanding what the role's about and whether it's the right fit for you as well. So this is a timeline of the recruitment process for this campaign. So applications open on the 3rd to the 17th of March, and then closely followed by that, there's online psychometric testing between the 18th and the 22nd of March. So everyone who applies, completes an application, will actually do the online psychometric testing, step 1. Step 2 won't be for everyone. We will use that as a gate to sort of select some people in and others out. And so step 2 is video interviews, and they're between the 31st and the 4th of April. Step 3 is a supervised verification test, so it's really just looking at the integrity of the tests that have been done in the past. I'll talk more about that later. Step 4 is the physical aptitude test, which Mark will talk you through. Step 5 is the assessment centre, and that's between the 26th of May and the 2nd of July. And then once you get to that point, if you've passed through all those steps, then we'll place you in what is a candidate pool, for want of a better term, and we will look to place people into a 12 to 13 week recruit training class. Why we do that is because, and that you could be sitting in that class for between 12 to 18 months, but why we do that is because of our capacity to be able to train you up and get you into, the operational system, in a safe way. We want you to set you up for success, so to speak, and we need time to be able to do that. We can't do everyone together. Following that, step 6 is a medical assessment, which Wendy will talk to, and then we'll have some pre-employment checks, and then also the recruit training program is the final step of the process, and that goes for 13 weeks. So it's a pretty long process. There's lots of timelines there. What I would say just at this point is that we may have some flexibility in those windows should you be away to do certain things, but if you are away outside of those windows, you're going to have to wait for the next intake. So just plan for it is what I would recommend. And all of those timelines are up on our careers page as well, should you need to go back and check it out. Requirements for the role. So being an Australian citizen, a permanent resident or a New Zealand citizen is what we need. In terms of education, HSC or equivalent, Cert 3 in any discipline could be an equivalent, a trades certification, or 3 years service as a retained firefighter. My apologies, that's an error there, it's 3 years. Also beyond that, driver's licence is what's required. It might be at some point you need to get behind the wheel of the truck. So we need a minimum of a P2, which is a green P. And for full licence holders, no more than 7 demerit points and no more than 1 demerit point for a provisional licence holder. In terms of driving history, I guess the point I'd make here is that being able to drive in a safe and responsible manner is an inherent requirement of the role. You might be the person who has to drive the truck or a van, and so minor traffic offences, we will, if you have any of those, we'll actually ask for more information to actually just explore that further. Drug and alcohol offences and perhaps serious misconduct behind the wheel of a car, those things are pretty hard to get through. We'll ask for more information, of course, and respect that, and explore it, but they're much harder to actually, more people are getting rejected as a result of those types of offences behind the wheel. Medium rigid licence is something that you need as well, just so that you can actually drive the appliances, the trucks, etc. It's not required to submit an application. However, it must be obtained by step 6 for placement into a recruit training program. So some of you may already have that as a result of the work that you do. But yeah, it's important to be aware that to actually get into a recruit training program, you need to have that. And the cost of the medium, rigid licence is covered by candidates, by you guys. So all I would say is just have a quick look on the Service New South Wales website and just understand what the costs are involved and how long it takes, etc. And then finally, criminal record checks is something that we will do as well. So to submit your application online between the 3rd of March and the 17th of March, go to the careers webpage and apply through that. Documentation we need from you is your resume. We need a current driver's licence or copy of. And when you're applying for the application, if you could just please use the name on your licence to apply, it just makes it a whole lot easier for all of us to be able to manage. Current driving history record. A screenshot of your demerit points from the Service New South Wales app. A passport or birth certificate. And then also just evidence of the education that you have, the requirement that I spoke of before. So this brings us to the second part of that first step, which is the online psychometric testing. So there's 3 components to it. There's a cognitive ability test, an emotional intelligence test, and mechanical reasoning test, and so they're all done online. So the cognitive ability test assesses a candidate's ability to think critically, problem solve, as well as learn and apply new information. And so I've listed just a couple of reasons why having a high cognitive ability is helpful. But essentially, if you think about the role of a firefighter, you're going to need to you're going to be presented with some scenarios where you're going to have to think on your feet and you're going to have to think logically and you're going to have to think quickly. And so in that particular case, that's why we place, such a high importance on that. So we test that through an online test called, it's a time test, it's 15 minutes, and there's 50 questions including verbal, numerical and abstract reasoning. Now, I would say that in the data that I've seen here, there's really only been one person that's managed to get to 50 questions and get them all right. So you don't need to get there to get to that benchmark to actually succeed in this role. Some people sort of take an approach where they like to get more right, but attempt less questions, and others, are happy to, to miss a few on the way to answer more questions. We're not sort of so much assessing that. It's really just about getting some data on your ability to solve problems, etc. The emotional intelligence test. So again, it's assessing a candidate's ability to recognise, understand, manage and influence emotions in themselves, but also in others. And as you can imagine, when you're out sort of in the field and you're attending to incidents, for example, you need to be able to, you might be helping people and you need to be able to sort of help understand what your reaction might be to those scenarios, but also understand and read people as well. So that's really important as well. And that's a time test, it's 20 minutes, and there's 3 sets of questions in that as well. And then the last one is the mechanical reasoning assessment. So this is really looking at a candidate's ability to understand and apply basic mechanical and physical principles to solve problems. So if you think in the context of a firefighter, you might be going into a building which is, structurally unsound. Just having an appreciation for, a basic appreciation for how the building's constructed is important. Being able to read schematics, etc., can be helpful. But it also comes back to being able to, there's a number of tools that you'll learn to use on the job as well, and being able to learn how to use those and use them in an environment under pressure is important. So that's a time test, it's 15 minutes and 30 questions. So just in terms of preparing for online psychometric assessments, it involves understanding the types of tests that you might encounter, practicing relevant skills and ensuring you're both ready mentally and also logistically as well. So there's various websites that offer free practice tests. These increase your familiarity with the testing environment, navigating the computer and responding to questions in a timed environment. We use a supplier called Criteria Corp for these assessments, and you can go onto their website and they've got some practice tests and so on, and have really good information about how they're delivered. Also, I'd suggest increasing your frequency in terms of your reading, and also read widely as well to help reading and comprehension speed being timed, and then also review basic maths percentages, ratios and data interpretation as well, because you'll be asked in those assessments certain things where you might need to interpret data. At this stage also, before the assessments are sent out, monitor your emails regularly. Make sure that you know the dates and you know when an email's coming. Check your junk folders just in case. Invitations will come out on the 18th of March, and they need to be completed by the 22nd of March. Extensions won't be granted, so make arrangements now to make sure that you can actually participate and complete the tests in those dates. Ensure you're well rested and you're in a distraction-free environment, and read all the information provided by the test provider, internet requirements, computer settings, etc. Percentile scores from the 3 psychometric assessments will be reviewed, and the highest performing candidates across the test will be progressed to the next stage, which is the video interview stage. So in terms of the video interviewing, just to describe what that looks like, essentially you'll get an invitation to respond to a couple of questions on a video platform. So it's a camera, you speak to a camera, it could be your mobile phone or a laptop. And it involves pre-recorded questions which focus on things like understanding the organisation and the role, motivation for applying, communication, and also fit to the role as well. So it's a great opportunity for you guys to actually showcase your interest in the role and what makes you suitable for the role. You complete this online in your own space and at a time you choose in that window. Just in terms of the setup, you get a couple of minutes preparation time, and there's an opportunity to practice as well. There's a practice question if you like, and then you can perform the final one that you'll submit. Final response. We're looking for people with a genuine interest in becoming a firefighter, as I mentioned, so it's really important to talk in an authentic and an honest way. Presentation matters, so print as best you can. Monitor your email, as I mentioned. Invitations to complete the interview will be sent on the 31st of March. Take note that the deadline is the 4th of April. So extensions again won't be granted, and just ensure you're well rested and in a distraction-free environment. It's at that stage that we'll actually look at the driving record and your safe driving history. So just be mindful of that. And also responses for the video interviews will be assessed against predetermined criteria, all of which you can actually find in the position description of the role on the careers page. So the highest performing candidates will be progressed to the next stage, which is the supervised verification tests. So the supervised verification tests is essentially conducting the online assessments but in a supervised environment. So again, cognitive ability, the emotional intelligence and the mechanical reasoning tests. So the purpose of the verification is to confirm that the initial tests were completed by the candidates without assistance from others or by someone else. And if we, it's really how we sort of maintain integrity in the process up until that point. The original test scores and the supervised test scores will be reviewed by external psychometric test providers, so that's Criteria Corp, with verification outcome returned. The supervised verification sessions are going to be held at Greenacre, which is where our head office is, between the 2nd of May and the 9th of May. So I know, and the time commitment's about an hour and a half, and the scores must be verified to progress to the next stage, which is the physical aptitude test. In terms of when you come in between the 2nd and 9th of May, it's likely that we'll allocate you a time, but if the time that we allocate you doesn't suit, let us know and we'll do our best to try and put you in at a time that works. I'll now hand over to Mark Gabriel, who's our team leader of health and fitness, to talk you through the PAT test.
Well, good evening to you all, everybody in the room and everybody online. My name's Mark. I'm the team leader of the health and fitness section. I've been in this role for over 10 years and I absolutely love my job. In my own words, we serve those that serve the public. I'm here to, if you'll allow the sporting parlance, give you all the X's and O's and the hard information about the physical aptitude test. But I'd say it'd be remiss, it's actually quite unavoidable for the information that I present to not intersect with or repeat some of the themes that you've heard already in terms of key messages, the headspace, the mentality that you're going to want to have as you work through the recruitment process. So, you know, sort of to open with that thought, we do take health and fitness and your safety very seriously. So the way that I actually want to frame that, and fair warning, there's a couple of cliches about to come out of my mouth. Game day is every day. I've heard it 2 or 3 times from the panel over here. No 2 shifts are the same. So in the context of the PAT, you might do a shift where you don't do the physical effort of a PAT. You might do a shift where you do the physical effort of 5 PATs. So get your head around it that way. I think that's really important. I've got Becky from the team here with me today. How these information sessions usually go down is there's a lot of good general questions out there that we share amongst the group, but usually we have half a dozen to 10 dozen people want to catch us at the end and ask us some questions. So we're here to field any other questions that come out of that. So I'll push into talking more about the PAT. You're going to pick up an implied message from me that you kind of need to be able to do the PAT on a bad day and bear in mind that the people that you're serving are going to be having a much worse day. Okay? I'm not suggesting that you need to be superhuman. If you want to ask me, can I do the PAT and do I do it? Yeah, I do it. Pretty much do it every time. I never enjoy it. It doesn't feel that exciting, okay? But let's talk about the PAT. It's a non-negotiable part of the recruitment process. For the most part, on principle, from what I was just saying there, it determines those that are physiologically capable of doing the job. We didn't just pluck a testing battery out of the proverbial and say, oh, that's the test that we're going to do. It's actually a really good way of understanding if you have those physiological requirements, the physical capabilities that will lend itself to a job in our agency in Fire and Rescue New South Wales. We haven't taken the capability set and the response profile of some agency somewhere else. This is our PAT. It was a 3-year body of work with the University of Wollongong to develop it. And my team, we spend a lot of time out at fire stations when we're not involved in this recruitment process. We want to go out to the crews and say those that have the right mentality, but also the physical attributes that pass this PAT are well prepared to get through that recruit program and then to do their job effectively when they're in station land. So to reduce the time you've got to put up with my voice, I'm going to encourage you to pay close attention to the videos that we play here. They are available on the Fire and Rescue Careers website as well. So you'll be able to re-watch them. They're actually really good at outlining the safety and competency criteria that's required of you during the test. The only things I'm going to add at the end of the video are all of the numbers, the X's and O's, as I just said, in terms of the weights and the masses of the different bits of kit in the task course. So let's get cracking with the videos.
Stage 1. Reduced visibility search. Firefighting requires firefighters to work in situations where there is limited or no visibility in confined spaces. This task simulates your ability to work in a smoke-filled building wearing a self-contained breathing apparatus, performing a victim search in a dark and confined space. To complete the task, you'll be required to fit a frosted face mask with the assistance of your assessor. The face mask allows normal breathing to occur and will not be connected to an air cylinder. You'll be required to perform a crawling search in a dark and potentially confined space as directed by your assessor. You must be able to wear the mask for the whole search and move forward in a safe and consistent way. Ladder simulation. Firefighting relies on using ladders. This task simulates raising and lowering a 10.5 metre ladder for firefighting and rescue work.
To complete the task, position feet shoulder width apart. Squat down and with an overhand grip, grasp the outside handles. Using your legs to lift, stand and raise the handles to shoulder height, facing palms outwards. Push the handles overhead in one continuous movement until your arms are completely straight. Underrun each rung, moving it towards a vertical position by walking underneath and ensuring you place both hands on each rung before moving to the next. Hold the center of each rung. Lean forward and continue to underrun for 8 rungs, completing the task at your own pace. Pause at the 8th rung with arms fully extended. Reverse the movement by underrunning each rung backwards and ensuring you place both hands on each rung before moving to the next. Hold the center of the rung until you reach the outside handles. Safely return the handles to the ground, using your legs to squat and holding the outside handles. Warning: unacceptable technique. If you fail to raise the handles overhead during the initial overhead raise, or if the handles or rungs contact your helmet at any time, the attempt will be deemed not competent. You will have 3 attempts to successfully complete the task.
Stage 2 is made up of 4 tasks. Complete this stage in under 15 minutes. Single-sided jerrycan carry. This task simulates a hazardous materials incident where firefighters repeatedly carry drums, equipment or casualties as a team. To complete the task, grip the jerrycan in one hand, lift it using a half squat and carry it a distance of 195 metres, which is 6.5 laps of the marked 30-metre course. You must complete the full distance while maintaining your balance and perform all lifting and carrying using only one hand at a time. You may swap hands at any time as often as you wish. To swap hands, place the jerrycan on the ground, grip with your other hand and use the squat to lift it before starting again. Do not use 2 hands at any time. You must not drop the jerrycan, drag it, use any part of your body to support the jerrycan, or use 2 hands to complete the carry. Stair climb with single-sided jerrycan carry. Firefighters constantly have to climb stairs with heavy equipment to perform their work. This task simulates climbing stairs with firefighting equipment. To complete the task, grip the jerrycan in one hand, lift it using a squat and step up and down for 36 steps. You may swap sides as many times as you like. To swap sides, place the jerrycan on the ground, grip with the other hand and use a squat to lift it before starting again. At no time should both hands be used to lift or carry the jerrycan. You must not drop the jerrycan, attempt to use any part of your body to support the jerrycan, or use a 2-handed hold at any time. Rescue tool static holds. Firefighters are required to use a variety of equipment to perform their role. This task simulates the use of a rescue tool in a motor vehicle accident rescue. To complete the task, you will hold a set of simulation spreaders at 3 different heights for 40 seconds continuously, with a 20-second break between each height. Shoulder level hold. Grip the rescue tool as shown. Lift it using a squat or lunge. Ensure you have a firm grip and stable stance. Then raise it to hold at shoulder height and parallel to the ground. Ensure the tool does not rest on any part of your body and hold it static for 40 seconds. Return the rescue tool safely to the ground using a squat or lunge to lower it. There is a 20-second rest before the next lift. Waist level hold. Grip the rescue tool as per the first hold and lift it using a squat or lunge. Ensure the tool does not rest on any part of your body and that your arms are bent and not locked straight. Hold it parallel to the ground at waist level for 40 seconds and then return it safely to the ground using a squat or lunge to lower it. There is a 20-second rest before the next lift. Knee level hold. Grip the rescue tool as per the previous holds and lift them to knee height. Ensure the tool does not rest on any part of your body. Position the shears parallel to the ground and hold for 40 seconds. Return it safely to the ground using a squat or lunge to lower it. During this task, you must not drop the shears or rest them on any part of your body. You should hold the shears parallel to the ground. Repeated hose drag. This task simulates the prolonged dragging of pressurised hose during a bushfire. To complete the task, grip the handle attached to the hose and place the hose over your shoulder. Drag the hose forward, ensuring that your torso is upright and facing forward for the full 30-metre marked course. At the marker, hand the hose to the assessor and walk back to the starting point. This is repeated 5 times. You may swap shoulders with the hose as many times as you wish. If you fall, turn your body side on or face backwards when dragging, you will be stopped and asked to begin that lap again. Your time will not be reset, but will be paused while the hose is repositioned. Remember, should you finish early, you'll not be able to commence stage 3 before 15 minutes. Should you take longer than 15 minutes, you'll be able to progress directly into stage 3. Stage 3. Stage 3 is made up of 2 tasks, in under 2 minutes. Fire attack simulation. Sometimes when fighting a fire, there is a thick layer of smoke in a dwelling. This task replicates dragging a hose while keeping below the neutral plane, the smoke layer, in a structural fire. To complete the task, grip the handle attached to the hose and lower your entire body into a crawling position below the 1.25 metre height marker. Advance forward for a distance of 30 metres, which is 1 lap of the marked course. If you exceed the height, turn your body side on or face backwards when dragging, you will be stopped and asked to begin again. Your time will not be reset, but will be paused while the hose is returned to the start. Firefighter rescue. This task simulates rescuing a firefighter from a structural fire. To complete the task, squat or lunge down, grip the harness straps and move the back plate into a vertical position. Using your legs to lift, stand up while safely lifting the back plate off the ground. Lower yourself below the height marker of 1.55 metres and move backwards for 10 metres, keeping the back plate off the ground. You may stop to adjust your grip, however you must stay under 1.55 metres and ensure that the back plate is off the ground before you continue. If you exceed the height, fall, drop the back plate or drag the back plate along the ground, you'll be stopped and asked to begin again. Your time will not be reset, but will be paused while the back plate is returned to the start.
Okay, before I get to the next slide, as promised, I'll rattle off some numbers. So those that love numbers and force components and stuff, lean on forward, get your pen out. Here we go. Just to repeat a couple of things. So the 4 tasks that make up stage 2, you must get them done in under 15 minutes. The 2 tasks that are in stage 3, you must get them done in under 2 minutes. One thing to be mindful of the whole time is the clock is going the whole time. You're pretty much moving, carrying stuff the whole time. There's 20 kilos of stuff, protective equipment hanging off your person. You can't change that. We've seen humans of all shapes and sizes do this, and you know, kind of like the fire doesn't die down, depending on how your body shape is, that you've got 20 kilos of stuff hanging off your person. Yeah. I want you to get the word simulation out of your head. That's incorrect. The PAT's designed to, in effect, strip out the skill component of what you have as a firefighter. We're showing raw baseline physical attributes. So I'll say it another way, just because you know how to deal with a certain rescue tool and another person doesn't, at this entry level, that person shouldn't be disadvantaged. You learn those skills as you get on the job. We're just seeing raw horsepower as it was. Okay, actually, Beck and I were talking on the car drive on the way in here. We're always knowledge dropping and sharing amongst the team here. And we're talking about some of these numbers that I'm about to rattle off. And I would say to you, quite frankly, if that is your max, if that's your A game level, that's great, because the tool is only good enough to know whether you've passed or failed, but We don't report back to recruitment and say that that person passed by a second, but they were absolutely laid out for half an hour. That person failed by a second and they walked off and they could have done it again. You know what I mean? So these numbers, they're there for a reason, but you want to go as far beyond that as you can. We'll get into the training preparation side of things, but you can only begin where you're at with your training. And if you get to these numbers that I'm about to describe, go beyond them if you can, but of course don't show up injured on your test day is another thing. Because how that actually plays out in recruit classes, I'm talking about years and years of data in defence and other agencies, it actually leads to higher injury risk if you're only just falling over the line in time, if you follow me. So that messaging is really important. And guess what? That's me just saying, do it on a bad day. You've got to be able to do it on a bad day. So the ladder, you saw the apparatus that we've engineered there. The ladder on a standard fire and rescue appliance is 10.2 metres and it weighs 49 kilos. You're not actually bearing that weight the whole time or at any time. Those that know stuff about levers, you're going to be on a long end of a lever there, get your moment arms out, calculate all of that. But we've engineered it so that the overhead forces that will be coming down at you at that ladder will be the same on that apparatus. I think that's all you need to know. The hazmat or the first jerry can tuss, that's a 26 kilo jerry can. With that 20 kilos of stuff hanging off you. So if you're 46 kilos, that's already all of you, as it was. The next jerry can is 17.5 kilos. The rescue tool, it's engineered at 19 kilos in the PAT, but bear in mind it's actually in between the various rescue tools we have on the truck. The combi and the spreaders is what we call them, although new combis with batteries, we'll get into that later. The hose advanced tuss, so we actually worked with Uni Wollongong in calculating this. There's a bit of debate on it, but those that love components of force, there's about 11 kilos of force coming down at you, and you've got to overcome about 27 kilos of horizontal force to advance a typical charged 38mm hose on a fire and rescue truck. And the very last task is like rescuing an 80 kilo mate with 20 kilos of protective equipment. So you need to be able to lift a good 30 plus kilos off the ground, get that clearance, and then lean back with enough force for about 56 kilos of force. But don't get so pedantic that you get that exact pin-loaded thing in the machine at the gym and go beyond that, was my message, yeah? Let's roll through these slides pretty quickly. So as I've said, game day is every day. There's a massive link between your physical fitness and your medical fitness. There are a lot of controllables that you can do with your health and your fitness to be medically well, but sometimes there's not. Wendy's going to talk more to that. Those bullet points list some of the reasons why. But in terms of other side of things, and Wendy's going to talk to this, what I'm trying to allude to here is you can be as fit as you like, but there might be underlying conditions where we call it risk of sudden incapacity. We're talking about blacking out because of neurological conditions or an unknown heart condition. It's probably good to know that before we put you on the fire truck, because we want to keep you guys safe first of all. Otherwise you end up becoming the safety issue, and the people that you're trying to serve, you can't actually help them. Okay, so let's talk about preparing for the PAT, all those things that you can control. The main thing that I'm trying to promote here is that we have a FireFit training guide that's on the careers webpage there. It has a strong focus on job-specific strength and cardiovascular training programs. So we're not just doing like a bodybuilding program or some particular, I don't know, Metcon program or, I don't know, soccer fitness running thing. They are specific conditioning ideas and progressions that we have in that guide. That will serve you well. So we do encourage you to have a look at that guide. And it's that magic combination of having a lot of cardiovascular demands. So you're breathing really heavily because you need to actually release or turn over a lot of oxygen to produce that work. But you also need to be carrying heavy things. And then the third bit that I think a lot of people don't think about is just the heat. The metabolic heat that you're producing doesn't get out. You're no more efficient than an internal combustion engine. About 25% of the fuel that you break down goes into the actual work that you do. The rest of it's released as heat, and it gets trapped in that turnout gear, as we call it. So if you're not sort of prepared for that extra impost of the PPC, the heat being held in, it will catch you out. That's all I'm trying to say. So a couple more things you want to know in regards to the guide. It outlines where you need to be at and how you need to get there. You'll recall I said earlier, show up uninjured. That's probably one of the biggest things you can do for any event that you're preparing for. But if you suddenly just spike your training load, as it were, and you go way too fast through those progressions, you're at risk of hurting yourself and not showing up well and uninjured for the event. So do think about that. There's no guarantee that you'll pass the PAT just because you've looked at the training guide or even gone through most of the principles. Leave no stone unturned, I suppose, is the message there. But the training is only one part of the equation. Channeling some of the messages from the panel over there, you've got to get your fueling and your nutrition right. You've got to get your rest and recovery right. We all have a life outside our training preparations for the PAT or even our life at station. So, you know, stress is stress. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. The only other thing I'll encourage you to look at is the Train Like a Firefighter videos. We've got some short, sharp videos where some firefighters are actually talking to those physical attributes you're going to need to work around one of our fire trucks. We're talking about that maximal overhead strength, that cardiovascular fitness that's specific to the job, and that strength endurance as well. So at the PAT, we'll roll through these points really quickly. You must provide a current medical certificate. So if you progress to this stage, recruitment will issue the paperwork that's required to get that medical certificate that says you're cleared to undertake the PAT. That certificate doesn't clear you to be a firefighter for the rest of your career. That's what the medical step's for. You have to bring exercise clothes and your sports shoes. Come well hydrated, bring water. You must do a PAT induction, which is effectively a safety briefing. So you get half a clue of the apparatus and how it behaves and a feel for it there. We've actually structured the days such that the induction is done quite early in the morning, and then we do the PATs from, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock throughout the day. We sort of try to roll through about 45 candidates each day that we're out there doing the PAT testing. I won't tell you how many days that we're out there. Okay, so yeah, you can't rank the PAT. It's either a pass or a fail. At the end of the day, we're just trying to give quality assured information to recruitment, say this person may be considered for interview. We don't control what decision's made from there. We just need to show that you've passed or failed. We can't rank it based on time because the PAT is designed to basically see whether the impost of all of that gear is slowing you down from your natural walking pace, let's call it. If you're really tall, you're going to walk faster than someone that's really short, but you should all get it done in under those 15 minutes, yeah? So just to bring it full circle, I would implore you to show up well prepared and with the right intentions, and I wish you all the best in the process.
Okay. So, as Mark mentioned, once the physical aptitude test is done, the next step in the process is the assessment centre. So this is where, well, I guess the assessment centre sessions involve a combination of tasks and activities designed to assess core skills, knowledge and capabilities required of a firefighter. So assessments explore behavioural capabilities such as teamwork, communication and problem solving. And the sessions will run for 2 to 3 hours, and they'll include a panel interview, a group activity, and also work styles assessment. Work styles assessments being, you know, what are your preferences in terms of the way you work, etc. Types of things you like to do. In all activities, candidates will be assessed against the predetermined criteria. Those who successfully meet the requirements will be placed into the candidate pool to be considered for placement into the recruit training program over the next 18 months. In terms of the assessment centres, they're being held at Greenacre at the headquarters, and they're between the 26th of May and the 2nd of July. And as I mentioned earlier, we're likely to allocate you into a time frame unless you let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate you, but we will be, you know, being prescriptive, so to speak. But if we need to, we'll try and accommodate you. In the practical activities, contribution's key. We can't assess what we don't see or hear, so please interact. Let us know, you know, your thoughts, etc. in the tasks. Think about the skills being assessed and reflect on what these look like and how you'll demonstrate them. Think through specific examples you could use for each of these skills. In the interview, structure is the key. There's a method which some of you may be familiar with called STAR, which sort of refers to situation, task, action and result. And And so it's a method that you can use. It's not compulsory, but it does provide a framework through which you can actually respond to interview questions, and it's helpful. Don't assume the panel knows what you mean. Elaborate and be specific. Relax and be yourself, and ask questions if you need to. If you're not sure of exactly what's being asked, feel free to ask for clarification, and take a breath when you need to, and think before you respond. Reflect on the core qualities of a firefighter when you're there. This tells you what we're looking for. And the next step is I'll hand over to Wendy, who's the team leader of medical.
Hi everyone, my name's Wendy, team lead of the health and medical team, and I've just realised they've given me the old lady handles to come up the stairs. Apart from that, if you get to my team, you're getting to the pointy end. So you'll have started to hear things about recruit class dates, you'll have started to hear things about uniform fittings, but remember you're still in the process until you get that letter of offer in your hand. You're not actually being offered anything. So when you get to my team, we're a very friendly team. We've got the lovely Monique here as well. We're a very friendly team. There's not a lot you can do to prepare for what we put you through, because we're looking at your medical background diagnosis. Fitness, Mark will have covered with the PAT test, but we're looking at things like you can run a marathon every week and cycle 100 kilometres every couple of days, but it doesn't mean you haven't got a genetic predisposition to cholesterol being high or a depression diagnosis in the background. But running the marathon and riding the bicycle will be helping the depression, so that's good. We're also one of the hardest medicals that you'll go through. So be prepared to be honest, open, and provide us with as much information as you possibly can. So your role that you're applying for is safety critical. You work in hazardous environments, and it's got a high physiological and psychological demand. So we've got a duty of care to you guys to make sure that what we put you into is not going to place you or others at risk, that you can actually carry out the essential tasks that we need you to do without the risk of injuring or aggravating any medical condition you've got, and that you meet some basic medical standards that are required elsewhere, for example, driving commercial vehicles, things like that. So the physiological demand of firefighting is impacting on both your health status and your fitness profile. So your sympathetic nervous system activates, and that is your fight or flight system, and you're working in chaotic scenes. So your physical work is, the burden on you with that is increased by your PPE use that you're wearing, the 20 kilos that Mark talked about previously, and the work tasks that you're doing at the time. The heat stress and dehydration is significant as well. You need to keep yourself really well hydrated. It's exacerbated by things like your PPE use, the environment that you're working in. It might be a 42-degree day that you're out there with your full turnout gear on, plus 20 kilos and dragging hoses around. So you're increasing your metabolic workload as well. The environmental conditions also impact you, so things like your smoke exposure, your asphyxiants, and the particulates that are floating around in the air. So you're not always wearing your breathing apparatus. You may be out to bushfires and the wind changes direction. All of a sudden you're standing there breathing in everything that's blowing at you. So your firefighters work as part of a team. It's complex, it's hazardous, and it happens in dynamic environments. You need to be able to think on your feet. You need to have good cognition, psychomotor function, and resilience to effectively and safely manage your scenarios. So you need to be able on the spot to make time critical decisions, safety critical decisions. You need to be able to process and respond dynamically to any sensory input that you're getting. So whether it's someone yelling at you from behind you, heat coming through your gear, things like that, you need to be able to respond to. And attendance at potentially traumatic events can be taxing for you as well. So you'll have to manage frantic bystanders, screaming relatives, the patient themselves if you're at a vehicle crash, things like that. They're all the things that you need to be able to understand and act on the spur of a moment. So candidates who get to our team will undergo the following things. We'll do a face-to-face assessment with you. That will be between our health advisors and specialist doctors. They're not GPs or normal medical practitioners. They are specialists in the field of occupational medicine, and that specialty is assessing risk of employment or a role against a medical condition. Before you roll up for your medical with us in at Greenacre, you'll be sent paperwork that you need to complete yourself. Please don't take it to your GP and ask them what's relevant. We get people coming in and they've not declared things to us because their GP said it wouldn't be important. Tell us everything, let us choose what's important and what's not. There are blood tests, ECGs, spirometries and urine tests. We'll send you the referrals for those. Please use our referrals. Again, don't go to your GP and get referrals for the test. These referrals are sent by us, so the results come to us. We'll have what we need on hand from them. If you do declare any historic diagnoses, injuries, hospitalisations, things like that, try and gather as much paperwork as you can on those and bring it in for us as well. So you'll send that through to us, but bring in a hard copy also. If you cannot, if you've got a significant injury in your past and you can't get any medical documentation on it, it's probably a good idea to see your GP about it and get a referral to have it investigated through a specialist or through the GP, whether that be a new set of imaging and then your specialist reviewing. Give us an update on the current status of it. The results from your pre-employment blood and urine tests, ECG and spirometry, are sent to us. We'll review them. We may give you a call at some stage before you come in for your medical, depending on what information you send through to us. So we'll review it first, and my team will give you a call if we think you haven't given us enough information. And we'll say, can you get the reports for this injury? Can you get some reports on that diagnosis? All the information is received and it's assessed against the demands for firefighting. You'll be able to find... can I confirm, is the inherent requirements of firefighting on the site? We don't know. Okay. Maybe, maybe not. If it's on the site, it's called the inherent requirements of firefighting. If you do end up going to a specialist for a current status review, take that document with you and say you want them to match up against that, because that gives us all the information we need. We'll look at all the paperwork, and what we'll be looking for is conditions that carry a risk of sudden incapacity or impairment. We don't want you collapsing on the scene, because that puts you, your crew trying to rescue you, and the public that you were trying to rescue all into danger. We look at the conditions that could affect your functionality and capacity to perform your firefighting tasks. And we look at conditions that could be aggravated by your firefighting duties. So, if you've got a specific condition or injury, after we've done our initial review, After you've provided us with as much information as you can, we've reviewed it, we've looked at you, we might still want you to go for further assessment. So that is why you should give us as much information up front as you can, and if you've got nothing, get your doctor to follow up and bring it with you. If not, it will delay your process of getting medically cleared a little bit if we have to refer you off, and in particular if we have to refer you off to a specialist, because there might be waiting times. So if you've heard about a class potentially on this date and we're saying you have to go and see a specialist now, that may get pushed. The costs of those extra follow-ups and reviews, the majority of that will sit with you as the candidate. So the health assessment, to help it go smoothly, you need to undertake your urine tests, your ECG, your spirometry as early as you can. As soon as you get those referrals, please fill them out and go and attend your pathology. Only use the fire and rescue referrals and information forms. Please don't go and get other ones. You'll need to do 2 urine tests. 1 urine test will be supervised, 1 is not. We've been finding some labs, if that doesn't happen, please make it click in your own mind. Some labs are just sending us 1 test back and we have to send you back for a second round. Check before you go in. One of the tests in particular can only be done usually with a booking, so always call your pathology lab first to make sure that you can schedule in all the tests you need, and make sure you fast appropriately. The tests are fasting tests. So nil by mouth, except water, for a minimum of 8 hours, maximum 14 hours before the test. The other thing we quite often see is one of the urine drug screen. A lot of people, it often comes back either dehydrated or overhydrated to dilute, and our results are unable to be used. You'll be sent back to do another one, and that's the supervised urine test. So, you might not want to do that. And it's at your cost again. So the other things you can do, you will be doing an audiology test when you come into us to do the face-to-face test. So please try and avoid loud noise for 16 hours beforehand, or if you can't do that, please wear your PPE diligently. Bring all your available medical documents with you as hard copies. You will have sent them all through to us, but bring hard copies as well, just on the off chance something hasn't uploaded properly to us. Make sure you fill in every box on the questionnaire. There's a lot of little boxes and a lot of little ticks, so go over it a couple of times before you return it to us to make sure you haven't missed anything. Wear gym gear to the appointment. Ladies, a sports bra is an awesome option, and just tights, or for guys, shorts, t-shirt, that type of thing. And if you have any questions about the medical, your questions will go through to the generalised recruitment email, and they'll forward them through to us for response. Remember the responses, we cannot pre-assess your specific issues. Your responses will be very generalised. So, and I think that is us.
So the final bit from me is just the pre-employment checks, which just comes after the medical checks, and so we'll follow. These follow the completion. The reference checks are part of that. So we really want to see one at least that's a current supervisor or most recent supervisor. Must be within the last 3 years. Volunteer work referees are fine. And also, if you're self-employed, contact us to explore the options. But we'll often look at things like, clients that you've had for a number of, years, for example, or customers you've had, so we can get a sense of how it is to work with you and you're reliable, etc., etc. And we look at criminal records. We look at an updated driving record at that stage. We only need an online version of that. You don't need to actually have a certified version that's mailed out mailed out to you that costs money. Just an online version is fine. And a conduct and service check for those who currently work for the New South Wales public sector. So this is at this phase, it'll be staged depending on the recruit class that you're scheduled in. So this will happen sort of in the lead up to that class. We'll get in contact with you. We'll say you're available hypothetically for July, and then all of this stuff will be happening in the lead up. The final bit's the offer of employment. So candidates who have successfully progressed through all the stages of the recruitment process then receive a formal employment letter. And just to note that that'll happen approximately 8 weeks prior to the start of the recruit training program. And it's called a recruit firefighter is the position on that letter of offer. And that's it. I'll hand it back to Greg.
All right, we've got there. Now you're all in. All right, we'll go through what it is to be when you're in the next step. So essentially now we're going to look at that you've got that offer of employment, and I'll just go back on that and reiterate, and this is where myself or my role and my boss will be determining things either from the medical team or other steps in the process to confirm that you're suitable to become a firefighter with Fire and Rescue New South Wales. So the one thing that comes up, and a couple of things, it's not really common, but it does come up, where someone hasn't ticked certain boxes or tried to hide things in that pre-employment medical check. It'll come to me, or my boss, or both of us will have a discussion with the medical team about the integrity part of our respect, integrity, service, courage, value. All right? And so I'm have to be the unenviable task of ringing people sometimes and saying, sorry, you didn't pass the integrity test. All right, so be really clear. If you've inadvertently forgotten something or that, just declare it straight away, work with the team. But if you're trying to hide something or really trying to disrupt that process, it will go against you. All right? I just want to get that out there because I'm the poor. I don't want to make those calls, to be honest. Okay, so beautiful. You've got in. You've now been allocated a recruit class. Once you've got that letter of offer, but when you've got that, if you haven't already done so, that's the time now to get on and get that MR licence to make sure you've got it ready to start your recruit class. We do pay you while you're in undertaking that. It is at Orchard Hills, which is in Western Sydney. It's not a live-in. We don't provide accommodation there. Like I said, you are paid. So for people that do not live in Sydney, the cost of accommodation or how you're going to do that is going to be borne by yourself. Some people look at other people in the class and they might be able to do some shared accommodation, but again, who's that person that you've never met before in your life and how can you share with them? So be aware of that process and how that works. Leave requests during the recruit course, all right? We've had a few, it seems to be, oh, look, I've got to go and do this. This is starting to think, hey, I'm going to be an operational firefighter and we're expecting you to work a 24-hour shift regardless of whether, there's a 21st birthday on or it's on a Tuesday. I don't know who arranged that, or I wouldn't mind going to the races. There's a Wednesday meet. You're not going to get time off during the recruit class, right? If you're pushing that envelope too much, it'll be thanks very much. I'll see you later. So be mindful of that. Obviously, if someone has a genuine illness and all of that, they're the things we take into consideration, and that does happen. We know that. The hours of work is that, and this is just at the moment, right? And we've changed it quite recently, but you work the first week on a Monday to Thursday, and then the second week is a Tuesday to a Friday. all right? But it does change, and it may change by the time we get there, but that's currently how we're operating and expect to operate over the next year. I've been through that, the accommodation, and you do get paid, and I made the comment before that the police never used to pay their recruits, and now they do, so they're in competition with it. They learn from us. You've now finished. Beautiful. Throw the hats in the air. Make sure you catch them, because that's part of the last cognitive test. No, I'm only joking. Just don't hit your friend. Don't throw the helmet. Yep, you get a certificate. It's a Cert 2 in public safety. And the commissioner's there with a graduation, and it's quite a good one to bring your whole family. It's a really good time. I still remember mine, way back in 1987, you know. Punk kid, didn't know what I was getting myself into, but haven't looked back. So I think that's a really good part of that. All right, I think we've got up to the question time. I think we're running well on schedule. So we've got online questions that have popped through, and now I'm going to bring everyone up that has been on the panel. And Becky or Mark, have you worked out who's coming? Mark's back up there. Wendy, I'll bring you. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so Renee and Nat are going to walk around with the microphones so we can capture that. So once we get the people who put their hand up, we'll run that mic to you, just so for the people online they can hear you. Save me. All right, we all set their team? We all working as a team? Right. Okay, so we ready? All good, Renee? Yeah. Okay, have we got any questions here? Down the front here's a question. Oh, we'll get to you.
Just looking for kind of like, what's the average sort of age of intakes?
The average
age.
Oh, age. Oh, it sort of varies, doesn't it? Maybe mid-20s. Yeah. Look, I joined when I was 20. Panel, what are we?
I was 31.
21. 46. I'll take the liberty of chiming in. We see every recruit class. What does the average mean? We see 50-year-olds, we see 40-year-olds, we see 20-year-olds, a few 30-year-olds.
We don't have any upper limit. There is a lower limit, obviously, but we don't have an upper limit of age. But yeah, as you saw, we've got a real variety. Like I said, when I joined, I joined at 20. There was a person in my class who was 18, and I had a 34-year-old in our class. At that point, you had to be under 35. But that's changed. Yep, the lady here.
Hello, my name is McKenna. My question is just with regards to, are there any specific, and if you can't answer it like to everyone, that's fine, but are there any specific medical conditions or injuries where you will not be considered just because it's a risk to the job?
Thanks. Everyone is considered case by case when it comes to medical, because Fred will recover from one condition slightly differently to Ginger, who has the exact same condition. So basically, no, I'm not going to give you any specific items, but there are definitely things that we do look for, so cardiovascular risks, things like that. Seizures, things, need to be 10 years seizure-free, that type of situation. There are some items, but I can't answer yes or no, case by case.
For the video interviews and the actual interviews in person, when you're answering them, are there time limits to what you're speaking about? Giving context-wise, some examples can be more context depth for certain things. Is there a time limit on those?
Yes, there's a time limit. Correct?
Yep, 2 minutes on the video, but the panel... Oh, sorry. Yeah, the video interviews, you're given 2 minutes to respond. So you have 2 minutes to prepare. You've got an opportunity to test your response for 2 minutes, and then you've got an opportunity to put in your proper response. So that's for the videos, and then the working group assessment and the interview panels are 2 at a time, but they're not as strict in terms of 2 minutes at a time. You might find if there's 5 questions, it might take you 5 minutes to get through the first and 2 minutes to get through the second, etc. Yep.
Yep, we've got an online one. I think it's more of a bit of a comment, and I'll get the fireys to. How do you see the future of firefighting with new technologies rolling in and its positive impact on firefighting? And I'll talk about when my dad joined in the 60s, the nasal detector was a really good device. But I'm sure now, Chris, you'll be able to answer that better.
All right. Like I said, I've been in for 17 years and the technological advances have been pretty considerable in my time. So it's probably changed a tad more in your career over the years. But for example, more recently, drones, we call them RPAS. Our team of RPAS operators is growing. Their role on the fire ground, not just for structure fires, but for bush fires and hazardous materials, that is growing. It's becoming more useful. It's being used in disaster, so we can sort of move them above floodwaters, get a bit of an idea of what we're going to deal with before we move into that space. So yes, this landscape is changing continuously. Does that change what we're looking for as a operational firefighter? I think for what the team for talent acquisition is all those things we're looking for anyway. We're looking for people that are willing to learn. We're looking for a range of skill sets, that cognitive ability, that communication. Those things are still required to develop those skills within the organisation in those fields where the technology drives it.
Yep, thanks.
In regards to recruit school, obviously Monday to Thursday, Tuesday to Friday rosters, how about hours? Are there days where you potentially 7 a.m. to 5 a.m.? Are there overnight sessions similar to the job in itself? Or are we more straight up a 9 to 5 roster on those study days?
No. So it's a 10.5-hour day, 7 till 5. That's how, 7 to 5:30. And that's how it runs. There's a couple of times they go to Armidale for the driver train, so it's a bit of an overnight. At this particular point in time, and like I said, we're looking at all different options if we need to increase our numbers that we're bringing through, that there's a possibility of some night work, but it'll still be between like the core Monday to Thursday kind of and Tuesday to Friday sort of thing. So, yeah, but probably not after 10, that'll be it. And like I said, when I first joined and all that, there's all different hours they've tried and different things over the time. But at the present time, that's what we're being given as what they're going to run. But we're working with the state government and our own teams about how we can best fulfil the requirements of how many people we need.
G'day, my name's Ryan. How you going? I just wanted to ask, what would be the best coping mechanism for seeing a traumatic experience?
Payback, hey? Look, everybody has their own coping mechanisms. I think in everything that we do, not just in that space, but preparedness is better than a cure afterwards. So I think the best coping mechanisms is having a good support network around you, knowing your skills and abilities, and knowing yourself, whether you can and be in that environment. When you do happen to, if and when you do have a potentially traumatic event in your role, having people that you can talk to, having things that make you feel better. So, healthy diet, fitness, everything that you're doing before is the best way to cope with things going forward. It's also important that you have the ability to reach out for help. Put your hand up when you're not doing well, because that's the most important thing. Early intervention if things like that do really affect you. And working closely with the people around you to put yourself back in a good space. I think when we go to events like this, any reaction is a normal reaction, we say, because it depends on how we are at the time. But, having good, healthy coping habits day-to-day life can help you in the role as well.
Thanks. I've got another online. It says, at what stage during the recruitment process do you find out what station you'll be appointed to? Is there an option to provide preferences for these based on your current locational, e.g. regional New South Wales, and what are the chances of gaining these placements? I think I sort of covered that when I talked about it, that the majority of the roles are in Sydney to begin with, and then regional will be what we do is we, under our award, and this is the exact role that Alex plays in our team, is that people put themselves on a transfer register, and that's time logged, time stamped of when you put yours in, and then you're placed in a queue, and then one day you'll get a call from Alex who'll offer you a spot, and all they hear is you're going to go, and they've hung up and they're already driving up the coast. But Alex, would you want to make any more comments on that? Yeah.
What I would just say to that is, while there are transfer registers to go to these regional areas, we have to be realistic on timeframes. The majority of the lists to go to those areas are not 2-3 years. You're looking at 10 years plus of commuting from quite a long way away into the city to do your role. And that comes with a lot of things, and I think we've talked about it before. You know, that means if you're coming from a real distance, you know, your family may be without you for at least 3, if not 4 days. How much toll does that travel take on you? You know, whether, you know, there are people now that fly in, fly out, but flights are not always guaranteed. It may be difficult to get to work at times. So it is possible, and you can get up to those areas, but it can take a long time.
Great, thanks. Any questions from the floor? Yes? Got the mic.
Hi. So is there a restriction on colour vision and colour blindness?
Colour blindness is not an issue. Go for it.
While it's moving its way up there, I've got a quick one, Mark, for the Pat. Wondering if for the repeated hose drag and hose call, if it's an option to have the hose under or over the shoulder. I think we've already covered it, but
it's got to be over your shoulder.
Yep.
It's easier over your shoulder.
And what is the weight in kilograms of the part you have to hold for 40 seconds in the different height positions?
19 kilograms.
Right. And will you be offering PAT familiarisations?
Maybe.
So the main thing with that is that there is one run at the beginning of the day of that, and that's the main one that we have to hold.
Yeah, just to clarify, that there are historically we do information sessions throughout the year for different groups. They are exactly that, information sessions, which dovetail in with the training guide principles. Sometimes we do gym components with that, but for the actual PAT, it's just a safety briefing and induction to all of the apparatus and the task force.
Great, thanks. Sorry, got a question up.
Hey, my name's Frank. I've got another question on the PAT, specifically the reduced visibility search component. What is the best way to prepare for that? And when you find the casualty, are you then taking them out of the space, or are you just leaving them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there was a few assumptions in your question. We're actually not testing your operational skill to do left-hand, right-hand searches, locate casualties. It actually is just a claustrophobia test. We are seeing whether you freak out or not. You've got 5 senses. If we take one out of play, how do you react? That's all the test is designed to do. And I think we've failed historically that many people throughout the history of that PAT. So don't be that guy.
Well, you'll be that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Fair question though. Like, yeah, most people assume that we're just testing whether you freak out.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Thanks to the entire panel for all your insightful information. This question might be jumping the gun a bit since you've got to make it through recruitment first. But I'm curious what the training and capability pathway in becoming a firefighter looks like, to consider that as a career. I'm more familiar with the SES, and once you complete foundational training, you move on to basic training like storm and water damage operations and then chainsaw crosscut. Then from there you can specialise into vertical rescue or swift water rescue. And I'm curious what the training in fire and rescue looks like, whether you have specialists or every single member is just an all-rounder.
Chris. Or Hillary, one of you.
So I guess a question came up in the earlier session today about sort of additional training and specialised training in certain spaces. And the advice that I would give is the learning curve in your 13-week recruit course is very, very steep. You take on a significant number of units of competency. You train across road crash rescue, hazardous materials, communications. You just get absolutely bombarded with skill sets and information in 13 weeks. What I like to see when firefighters come to the station as a level 1 firefighter is you need to continue to relearn that and build on that knowledge and build skill in that space. And it will take you a couple of years to be confident, to become a really good team member and to be utilised at any of those incidents that you've learnt about. So typically we train all of our firefighters to have all these skills across bushfire, road crash rescue, things that I've mentioned. And then depending on the station that you find yourself in, qualifications additionally are focused on those stations. So at City of Sydney, we have qualifications in rescue as well as ladder platform and swift water rescue. But then down the road at Alexandria, their additional trainings in hazardous materials. So it can be station-based where you find yourself, and if that is something that genuinely interests you, then that is where you might look to transfer a couple of years down the track to sort of chase those skill sets.
Hey guys, first off, thanks for your time. I had a bit more of a personal question for you. Sorry, I forgot your name.
Wendy?
No. Yeah. You said that when you applied, you were a couple more over. Sorry, my bad. That's my bad. Yeah. You said that when you applied, you were...
Hillary?
One more. Oh, no, okay.
We're messing with you. Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, so you said when you applied, you were quite young. And I was just going to ask if, for someone like myself, that's also relatively quite young, if you have any general tips or just advice.
My first advice, and this is probably not whether you're young or whatever stage you're at, we've seen the time frame is an extended period of time, or it can be. There can be a period of up to 18 months where you're sort of in this holding pattern. My advice is just keep learning things. Whatever you're currently pursuing now, whether it be a uni degree, a TAFE degree, a trade, whatever role you find yourself or career you find yourself in, keep learning in that space. You're going to get skills and build skills that are going to be transferable across to this organisation. Just keep working on those skills that you think are going to be applicable. So first aid or potentially volunteering in surf lifesaving or SES or things like that that are going to transfer across. And you might find yourself in a position where at a young age you're in the organisation and that's fantastic. But you might also find yourself in a position where you might not be successful this intake. And if it's something that you want to pursue, then yeah, keep looking for skills that you think are going to help you in the interview process to demonstrate why you'd be a good asset to the organisation.
Beautiful, thank you.
Oop. Control-Alt-Delete.
Hello. When you say you do a 24-hour shift, do you have to be awake for 24 hours?
Team? City of Sydney? Yes. Other stations? No. This is their break coming here.
So we're allowed to recline at 10 o'clock, so we all have a room and a bed, so you can go to sleep. But obviously when the bells go off, you're up, you're there. If it's a job, you could be up until even the shift changes over in the city at 6:30 in the morning. We swap platoons to the next shift, but even out at a job, you might not be back by then, or you could be lucky enough to get back at 5 o'clock and get another hour and a half sleep until you change over. It just depends. Some stations are lucky. They might get a night in bed.
Thank you.
Hello, yes, my name is McKenna. So another question, piggybacking off the SES kind of question. Are the skills that and the qualifications we get through SES transferable into here? Because like I know ADF, SES is like, no, sorry, it's not the SES way. I know you can do that, but no, you have to do our training course again. So is there anything transferable? We're already qualified. So
We do have a recognition procedure.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, so there's a recognition procedure that they run at Education and Training, and that's part of their process, whether it's an RCC, recognition of current competency, or an RPL, prior learning. They have that recognition process, and we also have a recognition process for our on-call firefighters of years of service and those from other urban fire services. So, yeah.
What I would just say to that, having been on call and been trained and having done training prior, nothing compares to doing that training again. We're talking about we train with our peers and our teams, and it's building that environment of having one organisation with similar skill sets. So even if you have done it, I would always say just do it again. There are a couple of different processes. I redid the whole training, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Cool, thank you.
I'll come to you while the microphone's making up. I've got one for there. Regarding the driver's licence record, do we need to purchase the uncertified or the certified record for submission? It's the certified one for the first.
We can do the online one. There's an online one that they can submit.
Yep.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be the certified one that's emailed out.
Oh, right, okay.
That's posted out.
Okay, so you don't have to, you can just do the online one. Yep.
Correct, yes.
I'm aware that the maximum allowable demerit points to be eligible for applicants is 7. Is this a strict rule, or can it be taken on a case-by-case basis? It's a strict rule. Unfortunately, they're the ones that we deal with, so sorry about that. There's no case-by-case. The case-by-case comes in, as Tim went through, is the driving offences part, where we have a look on the case-by-case. Yep, where are we up to? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, good evening. Thanks all for your time tonight. Just in regards to recruitment, if you fail to get through the recruitment process, can you request information to assist you in applying again? And how many times can you apply? Is there an average number of times that people have applied and then are successful? And a second part, during the 13-week training, what's the retention rate like? Do many people drop out? So two-parter.
All right. You going to do the first one, or you want me to do it?
So part A, you can request feedback, and we'll give you some feedback. And that'll vary depending on at what stage you sort of, yeah. Was there any other?
Yeah, the criteria will give a... you can only apply for the once in the one campaign, but you can, if we've run whenever we run a campaign, you can... Now, the only time I would say against that, if you've got a pre-existing medical condition or something that we've said, sorry, that is never going to be fixed and you'll never... Yeah, sorry about that. But the actual first steps, yep. Anyone?
It might be you're interviewing, you might be nervous and you might screw up your answer or something.
Yeah, and that happens. So, yeah, so you can do it.
Feedback on that, you can request feedback
Yep.
to assist you in applying again.
Yep.
Okay. And part 2, the training, 13
What's-
weeks.
Yep.
Do you get people just go, this is not for me, this is just too hard?
I'll jump on that. In the 3.5 years that I was in that training space, we had one recruit that I was aware of that during the process just said, this is not for me. they were actually potentially going to be a really, really good firefighter. And we implored them to stay, and they agreed and stayed on for another couple of weeks. And then 2 weeks later said, no, I've made that decision. And we said, yep, that's totally fine. Like, good on them for making that decision. So that was the only person I've seen sort of step away from the role in my time there. But I guess in that process, you do get there's a lot of assessment items for these units of competency. So it is very taxing and tolling mentally learning the information for those exams. And all those exams are sort of framed by the ASCA guidelines, which sort of ensure that we are making sure that we're trying to assist the learners to get to that endpoint. But yeah, there are people that get through there and just realise this job is not what they thought it was.
Just to jump in also, and it does, I believe, add value to the answer, that several people a year in the recruit program will injure themselves, which puts them off course for the recruit program they're in, class 4. They may end up having to wait till a subsequent class, of which our team can help support. Sort of comes back to that messaging of being prepared for when you go into there. And it's actually really important if you think about how long and drawn out the recruitment process is. From the PAT, it could be 18 months, borderline 2 years before you get into recruit classes. It's your classic sort of bell-shaped curve. You get a lot of people in a lot earlier. But yeah, there's that implicit message of stay well and healthy, and it'll be all protective and all those types of things for your mental health and everything as well, yeah.
Hey, my name's...
Hang on.
We'll go... Hey, sorry. My name's Ethan, and my question's more of a medical... so when you're conducting a call, like for instance, and you've either seriously or minor, like, injured yourself, is there a return to work policy of how that undergoes?
Yeah, there's work cover if it happens on the job. So you go through that process as you normally do with your doctor and the insurance agency working with you to try and help get you better and back on the job. If you do something to yourself off the job, you come through just by submitting normal medical certificates. We review them and decide with a triage overlook that this looks like he really shouldn't work for a while, or they should be doing light duties for a while. So in those cases, we'll refer you off to our occupational physician to get clearance. But yeah, we just generally work from your medical certificate to get a clearance decision with a phone call.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hi, I'd just like to understand a bit more about how long and how often you may be away in like rural or interstate calls.
How long you might be away?
How long you might be away, like weeks or days, and how often throughout the year?
So if you work the 24-hour roster, you only operate between those hours. We then, if we have a bushfire situation or a deployment, like Chris alluded to when he went to the Victorian bushfires, and Alex has done a few of those deployments, that if you, I've been away for 6 weeks at a bushfire in Canada, but it's given out to you, hey, would you like to go, and all that. We just don't pick you up and send you, put you on a plane, and you won't say goodbye to your family for 6 weeks. So you can make a choice of accepting or not accepting that. And as Alex alluded to before, we do what's called country relief. So you may go to a regional station to fill in for a month, and that's what Alex... But it's all, hey, would you like to go, and put your name down on a list. So your normal rostered 24-hour shift, unless something really goes pear-shaped, is probably all you're going to work, and then once you're finished, you can do it. But the end and start time can vary. Like if you get a call out, like Hilary said, at 6:25 and you're expecting your flight to leave at 8:05, you mightn't make it. All right, so just be aware of that. It can happen. We just got to send the truck. You can't, I'm going to, wait, can you just put that fire out until I get there? So you can't do that.
So if I can just jump off the back of that, the way a fire appliance works is there's a designated number of seats and firefighters on that crew. So a change of shift, when someone comes in for the new shift, that allows someone from the old shift to go home. They don't go home when they think their shift's finished. It's when the next person comes in and is ready to go to work. So there'll be times when we call them late fire calls, where it's right on change of shift, when half is one crew, half's another crew, and you're out. And it might be an incident that then gets extended and gets bigger and bigger. And you might have a couple of that crew that gets stuck working back an extra 2 hours beyond the normal finish time or the expected finish time. But that is our commitment in our capability to the community. So that's where we sort of say you're 24 hours on, 24 off, these are your days. But there's a bit of room where that changes. It doesn't happen every shift, but there's days when it can ruin your get home to get your kids off to school and things like that.
Hello, my name is Logan. I just wanted to go back to a question asked about coping with traumatic events. What is the current stance on therapy? As I know there can be a bit of a stigma around it.
Since I've been in the Fire and Rescue is a very heavily male-dominated organisation, and there has been a lot of stigma in the past about therapy and talking about, feelings and all of that sort of thing. I think I'm really grateful and really it's a really positive thing to be able to say the stigma in the organisation, even just in the years that I've been in, there's much less stigma. I think we talk about it much better in terms of what our coping mechanisms are and how we respond after incidents. And my example for that is the incident that I talked to you about. I really struggled with that. And at that moment, I had there was 5 people on my crew there with me, and each of them individually talked about it, which they said they never normally would have been able to. So I think that the stigma is reducing. It is still there because I hope it will go. I don't know if it will, but in terms of people getting therapy and being able to have those sort of things, I think it's perfectly normal and promoted. And I don't want to get too mental healthy because it's something I like talking about, but one of the things that I always talk about when I'm talking about mental health is I think therapy is really good even before the fact, so that you've got someone to talk to if and when something does happen that's not good. You've already formed a relationship. This person already knows you and knows how you cope with things. So it might not be therapy, it's just a support person.
Thank you.
Sorry, just quickly off the back of that as well, the organisation has quite strong programs in place. So we have this thing called an Employees Assistance Program, which subsidises counselling sessions and provides access to firefighters to seek specialist counselling and treatment, and it's across a whole range of sectors. It's not just sort of mental health. It can be family counselling, domestic violence counselling and things like that. So the organisation puts a lot of funding into that space.
Hi guys, I had a question for the PAT test. When it comes to the actual test on the day, how many people at a time are being tested, or is it just one person at a time?
We'll be operating 5 lanes at any given time. It's kind of like the barbershop model, next up, just keep rolling through, but you might be drag racing next to somebody, you never know.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, just a quick one on minimum educational certificate. I think it said Cert 3. Probably tell from my accent, I've not studied here. I am a citizen now, but is work experience taken into account? My last education would have been about 13 years ago. I did a HND, which is like 2 years into a degree. I don't know how that translates over here. Is it just taken on a case-to-case basis, or should I go and quickly sign up to TAFE?
Will you get it done by March?
Yeah, I reach out to us.
Yep.
Yep, and let's have a conversation. Yep.
Yeah.
G'day guys, my name's Josh. Just one further to your topic about the 24 hours on and then 24 hours off. We look at an example of big factory fires. If you copped one of them just before shift changeover, how does that work then, being you roll on the truck? Like, is it get to a point and then you get taken out and someone gets brought in, or could that end up going to a 34-hour shift?
We've got fatigue guidelines.
Yeah, we have pretty strong guidelines on fatigue management. so we work 24 hours. You can extend that shift can be extended by up to 2 hours. At that point, after that, you're sort of reaching into that danger territory as we sort of look at it. So in that rare event, or no, I shouldn't say rare event, but in that event, the station officers on the fire ground looking after their crew welfare, they will bring that to the attention saying we need to get this firefighter back to finish their shift. And I'm sure everyone saw it in the news the other day, that large fire out at St Mary's. That fire went for a long period of time, but we have procedures in our organisation where we rotate fire crews from the fire ground for their welfare, fatigue management, heat stress. So that would just be something that gets factored in and dealt with in that case.
Yep. Sorry. Oh, okay. Hi guys, I'm Nathan. I just have a question for you fireys up the back there.
Oh, there you go. Get the microphone to him.
Haven't said anything, you know. Give him a shot. If I can just ask, what was your experience during the whole recruitment process for you guys, and like how you guys dealt with it, and whether you got in first go or it took you guys a couple tries, and yeah, what your experience was?
I think we're all a bit different. We've all kind of come from backgrounds. I was a first attempter, but I have a lot of exposure to the role and people in my friendship circles and family and stuff that have done it. So I did my research about what the role was and what this application process entailed. Ethan came from retained background as well, so he had a bit of experience there. Yeah, I think all different. My advice would just be read all of the information that the website has. You've come to these information sessions, talk to as many people as you can, get out to station. The more you understand about the role, what we do and who we are as firefighters, the better your chances are of doing it. But I think these guys alluded to earlier, there's not a maximum number of times to apply. Like, keep doing. Every time you do is a learning curve. You'll understand a little bit more about what you need to do to get there. So keep trying.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Megan. I had a question about the talent pool. So if you get to that stage, you said between, could be, you know, half a year to 2 years. If there are more campaigns during that time, do you apply for them or do you just stay in the talent pool?
Yeah, so the strategy at the moment is that we'll go externally this year for a pool of talent, and then next year what we'll end up doing is we'll probably have a program where we do retained to permanent. So Ethan was on the he was a retained firefighter, and so we'll top up what we need if we need some, you know, with that. So we won't actually run a campaign like this until, what are we in now, 2025? So 2027?
We might not know, but
yeah,
our forward planning needs will determine. But once you're in that, you won't get bumped.
No.
That. So if you're in the pool, we'll use that pool up. Renee does all that work about moving people from that pool into the classes, and we're in that transition stage where we're getting at the back end of our last recruitment. They're all pretty much through, and then we'll move through the people that are sitting there from our retained to permanent process, and then all the people in this room, you're in the next group. People online, bad luck, you missed out. No, I'm not joking.
Yeah, so I feel like that answered part of my question, but I guess leading into that as well, once you have graduated from the program, I would assume at select stations there would be free spots. So how do people, I guess more so based in Sydney, apply for those Sydney stations, and how competitive those stations are? What's the likelihood of actually getting in?
So after your 13-week training program, I think we talked about this in the last session, but basically you'll be allocated a station by our team, and that's where you'll go. So you don't actually apply for stations as you come out of recruit college. Most of the positions are in either usually the Metro East area, which is where we are here, into the Ashfield area, potentially some of the, inner city southern and western suburbs. We do try and allocate stations based on sort of the general direction of where you live, but at that time you will just be told where you're going. The general recommendation is that you sort of stay at that station for a period of time to be able to learn all the skills that we talked about earlier, form teams and so on, and then you can start to look at other stations you might like to go on through, not necessarily application, but you can, advise people that you're looking to go elsewhere and work that way.
Nat. Nat.
Yeah. I joined at, I lived at Peakhurst, which is a southern, southwestern Sydney suburb, and I was lucky. I only spent 12 years at the city station and then got moved out after that. So I was pretty one of the lucky ones, but anyway, I'm sure the firefighters here would love to hear. No, I'm only joking. But that's potentially what can happen. And if you get sometimes a qualification or a good skill or whatever, and you live in the Sydney area, sometimes you might just stay in that. But we have different transfer registers and different things. So it all depends on the age and stage of where you are. But consider that as the city people gyrate out, you'll move into the city stations and then move through that process.
Hello again. Just a question for the panel. I'm not really too sure how to word it, but as someone that's public speaking's never really been a strong suit, I was just wondering, when it comes to the group interviews or the panel interviews, obviously you want to try and speak in a clear, concise way, but are points deducted for being a bit nervous or... Yeah, I guess that's my question.
You're passed, mate. You're in. Don't worry.
No, I mean, the fact that you're speaking up suggests that you've got enough confidence to be able to deal with an interview. But I'd just say, approach it as an opportunity to communicate how you might be able to deliver on the role. I just get a good night's sleep, make sure that you're relaxed. But also, I mean, it's just, we're just humans. We've all got our strengths and weaknesses and that sort of stuff. So just, treat us like that and you should be okay. But, focus on the requirements of the role and that sort of stuff. And if you really sort of just your head's immersed in how you'd be able to deliver that, then I think you'll go really well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
If I can just jump off the back of what Tim said, and I'll probably use Mark's as an example, you're not just going to show up on the day of the PAT and have a crack at it. That would be ill-advised. The same with your interview. You're not just going to log in and try to do your video interview answers first go off the bat. So, like Nikki mentioned, if this is something you want to do and a career you want to pursue, get out there, meet firefighters, read the website, read all the information, understand what we do, and then I'd say practice. Sit down in front of family members and try to practice mock interviews. Record yourself on an iPad just by yourself, giving an answer, watch it back, learn your behaviours, learn if you look down at your hands. They're skills that you can practice yourself, and as much effort as you'll put into the PAT, it'd be a good idea to put that sort of effort into your Emotify, your Cognify, your interview stages as well.
Yeah, hi there. Quick question. I know we've already spoken about demerit points, but I just want to confirm, if you don't have a licence, you can't apply if you've lost it. Okay, thank you, and thank you for tonight. It's been great.
Hypothetically speaking, yeah. Referee.
Nat, then.
No.
Hi, I just wanted to ask more of an operational question side of things. So, like, obviously everyone gets sick at times and stuff like that. What are your sort of procedures about, number one, calling in sick and getting someone to cover a shift as well? Are you required to call another firefighter and say, look, do you mind taking my shift today? Or like, how do you guys sort of go working around that sort of thing?
You got to notify us that you're sick, and then we'll fix it up after that.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Yeah, the onus is on you as an individual to make sure you're fit and healthy to come to work. If you aren't, then yeah, you ring your fire station before your shift starts. You tell them you're unavailable or you're sick. You don't have to elaborate. You don't have to give medical reasonings for it. And then your shift will communicate with sort of your inspector to organise someone to fill your position, because like I said, every position on the truck needs to be full. And that comes in a range of, we can move firefighters or we can recall firefighters to duty. And then when you're ready to come back, there might be a process for a medical certificate or whatever. But yeah, the process is you need to ring before your shift starts.
Okay.
A no-show is called absent without leave, and it's not taken very well. Right.
Hi, my name is Ashley. My question is, what do you do to support professional growth?
So we talked about earlier that there are certain stations that have certain skills and qualifications. So that's one aspect of the training that we have. In terms of professional growth, in terms of rank, there are different ranks that you can work through. So all of us work towards becoming qualified firefighters. From then on, you can work towards becoming a senior firefighter and then going through promotional programs through there. At station, all firefighters go through what's called a station training program, so that we have drills that target all of our key skills throughout the year that we work on to make sure that we are operationally ready. And then further to that, we have learning programs, online learning that we can do at any time that are available to us to be able to increase our skills, knowledge and abilities for our job. Anything else?
My advice is, if you've been given an opportunity and there's something you want to pursue, and most of us on that, and I've worked in education and training, it came up. So any of those skills or anything that's offered to you, I always say, if it's in your plan of where you want to go or whatever, just try it. Sometimes things come by adversity, and you might have an injury and you get put into a section for a while. Embrace it, go for it, and you'll have a learning experience through that. You don't have to get injured to go to those places, but I never had to. But there's lots and lots of opportunity to go into different things, and that's what I would say. Just take those as they come up, and all of us have been not lucky, but we've pursued it. You can not pursue things and just, but if you want to actively pursue it, the world's your oyster out there. And like I said, next month, I'm heading over to Singapore for a training course. I've been overseas for, the earthquake in Turkey. I've been to numerous bushfires in Canada, the United States. I've been all to New Zealand doing training courses all around Australia and different bushfires. I never thought that when I first joined the fire brigade, that's what I'd be doing. I just thought I'd be going to the local station and doing some fires or whatever. But there are so many opportunities. The technological advances that we have qualified firefighters that have operated a drone, an RPAS drone in Vanuatu. Hey, you're trained on it. You get on the plane, off you go. Oh, thanks. So there's lots of things that you can do. The Bronto, 3 years in, you're up the tallest, really, in Australia. It's 45 metres. It's really, some people don't like it, but I think it's a great thing. I loved it. Yep.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. My name's Nick.
Yeah, if anyone needs to leave, please, it's getting on. We'll be on overtime now. So.
Just one for the parents out there. How's it been being a dad or a mum as a firefighter, and how's it been on your kids?
All right, so yeah, I you probably know a little bit about me. I've joined at 21, and since that time to where I am now, I'm now married and I've got 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. What this job has allowed me to do, which I think is absolutely fabulous, is I have seen so much of my children growing up because of the shift work, because of the days off, helping with dropping off for school and things like that. But it has its down parts, obviously missing other things with the shift work because of like key milestones and things like that, the way our roster constantly rotates along. I'm also very mindful of the toll it has taken on my wife, being home alone at one point with 2 children under 2 years of age for 26 hours through those nights. It's not easy, but it's those support networks, having family around and things like that. So that's probably my point of view. It's probably a bit selfish of me because I'm still sort of doing my role and my wife is at home with the young kids, but that's the position I've found myself in. Alex, do you want to speak from the other side?
Yeah, look, I'm in a little bit of a different circumstance, and I've talked to it before that I actually find the shift work that I can't do it. I probably could, but I don't like missing out on those, things. I have a 3-year-old and I'm a solo mum, so I don't like not being there for bedtime and bath time and that sort of thing. But so that's what I found. I absolutely loved it when I was on my own, and but there are opportunities for me to do something else and work in other areas of the organisation so that I can still have those times. So I think in lots of ways I've had the best of both worlds.
Sorry, I'm going to throw in as a civilian wife, mother of a firefighter. We moved to Sydney so my husband could become a firefighter, and I fell pregnant while he was in training college. We had no support. We had no family, no relatives. So for me, it was a very, very dramatic experience. The night times, I was petrified. I ended up with 3 young children, and I was always terrified at night because I was in Sydney. I didn't know how secure and safe I was. We were living in Randwick. On the other hand, I could go to work Monday to Friday, and the majority of the time he was available to do childcare on the other days when he wasn't on shift. In respect to that, you pay for childcare for 5 days a week, but you're only taking the children for 2 days out of those 5. So, there's expenses, there's costs, there's stress for the family, but there's good times for the family as well.
We might start wrapping it up because we'll be up for another mealie. So.
In terms of the step-by-step process in the testing program, you've obviously got your specific dates for each test, and you spoke about rescheduling if a time doesn't suit. If, for example, you're, say, overseas or something for that entire period, is there any chance to do the test outside those dates?
No.
Easy question.
All right, everyone. Thanks very much for everyone coming along. A big thanks to all to the panel members, to the team here from Recruitment. A big thanks to Renee and Nat, Patch and Lamisha, who put on a lot of this and got all that for Tim. And so thanks everyone, all the people online, to my mate in Norway, good luck. And have a nice evening. Thanks.